Well, hard to know what to say after that, really, isn't it? But if you thought that game was important, at opposite ends of the globe, they thought things at Old Trafford were far more significant. This was Australia against the West Indies, and the nuances of run rates aside, the loser of this match was almost certain to go out. Pakistan were through, and New Zealand looking to be on the point of joining them in the second stage. Well, Australia picked the same side that beat Bangladesh. Tom Moody, man of the match in that game, and Brendan Julian keeping their places. As far as the West Indies were concerned, Mervyn Dillon was back after being rested against Scotland. He replaced Hendy Bryan, and Stuart Williams keeping his place despite a golden duck against Scotland. Well, Australia won the toss and they chose to field. The first few overs were going to be crucial, and it's the beginning of the third. McGrath is bowling to Jacobs. The West Indies are one without loss. And our commentary team is Richie Benno, Colin Croft, Jeff Thompson, Mike Atherton, and first of all, Jonathan Agnew.
Jacobs has gone over the top. Perfectly safe, of course, with the men up. And that has slowed up quite significantly over the outfield. Jacobs comes back for 3.
First sign of aggression here from Ridley Jacobs. Ball of full length from Glenn McGrath. Flicked it over mid-wicket, and the outfield looks slow. An early breakthrough for Australia.
The secret here is that he kept down, didn't stand up, kept himself low, able to go down to take that low to his right. So a huge disappointment for Adams. With a great bowler like McGrath, even his confidence can dip. But it's amazing what a wicket will do, and his tail will be up now. And this, therefore, should be a tremendous contest now.
This, you sense, is the crucial stage of a crucial match. Australia's best bowler against the West Indies' best batsman. Reviving memories of their epic contest in Bridgetown this winter. Much now rests on the shoulders of the West Indies captain.
Fortunate. There's a mix-up, and if that hits, oh my word, well, Lara wasn't even trying to get into his ground. Brendan Julian at square leg. He had a good side of the stumps, although it's very difficult to hit from that distance. But for a start, the pull shot was a little bit shaky. Jacobs called Lara for the run, and Lara simply gave up, not in the frame. Here's Fleming bowling the 8th over.
No!
Great shot. Classic Lara.
It's a typical Brian Lara pull shot, just short of a length, up onto one leg.
Lara was a little bit late there. Very, very well bowled, just about the right. A little bit of movement away from the right, correcting the left-hander, but more particularly, I think Brian Lara was late. Hit the top of the off stump. West Indies in serious trouble at 20 for 3.
Shivnarine Chanderpaul, the new batsman coming out.
Just pitched about middle and leg, clipping the top of the off stump. Anything better than that has not been made yet.
This over's not quite working out for Brendan Julian so far. That's worse. Not only wide, but it's gone for 4 as well. Gilchrist was over the top of it rather than having it too far away from him.
Again, lack of direction and really no bounce. Adam Gilchrist actually got across onto the glove.
Good shot. He's waited for that. Something well pitched up round about Midland leg. And when it came, he dealt with it perfectly.
There was a hesitation. And I think the batsman could have been out either end there, because it was Jacobs who hesitated to start with.
Well, this is a very good piece of fielding. He's picked out Steve Waugh, the captain. He's on the back foot, and this is what's done him in here. Steve Waugh just picks that up, turns, shies at the stumps. It can't be too far away, but that would have been out.
Still, the partnership starting to grow now for the West Indies. They urgently need one. And Julian's continuing. That should be 2. It may even be 3. Well, Jacobs is struggling. Direct throw from the boundary, and Jacobs there slipped at the non-striker's end. They've called for the replay, and this will be interesting.
Well, it's amazing how it happens, isn't it? He just pushes this one forward a point. They're probably thinking of a 2 at that stage, but it just keeps rolling and rolling. Ponty's the man just coming into picture now, giving chase, and he's a very good thrower. But he turns blindly and throws it, and unbelievably, this hits the stumps direct. Batsman slipped, and this is going to be very, very close.
And he's just got there. Wonderful throw. Now, Shane Warne's coming on. Oh, there's trouble here, surely, if that hits. Well, they've had their chances in the field, the Australians. That's Michael Bevan.
Well, this was suicidal, that's for sure. Michael Bevan and more people running in. He's left-hander there. It's got to be out by a mile. If he hits, unfortunately, just misses.
Oh, he's bowled him. It was off the bat. And Shane Warne strikes with just his 3rd delivery. He loves that Warwick Road end of Old Trafford. 64 for 4. Chandapal's out for 16.
Well, Chandapal will be very disappointed at that, I think. Tried to force the delivery, probably not quite enough room, in a little bit close to him there. He leaves for 16 of 39 deliveries.
Stuart Williams at number 6. Lovely shot. It was given more air by Warne. Williams saw that. And, well, I think that'll need a replay to see whether that was 4 or not.
Michael Bevan's coming here like a missile. He's had to run so much further than Glenn McGrath. He knocks that out and then nearly demolishes the fence as well.
Simple catch. Totally mistimed shot there from Stuart Williams. Mark Waugh takes his 2nd of the innings. That one a good deal easier than that lovely slip catch earlier on today. And that really is a sad way to go for the West Indies. He had no idea really of the pace of the pitch or the bounce. He'd only just come in, and that was completely mistimed. 67 for 5. Phil Simmons is the last of the recognised batsmen. And there's the new manager.
Dear, another one dragged on. Well, that's a brilliant bowling change. Moody has just taken a wicket. Steve Waugh whips him off, brings on Fleming. He gets a wicket, and it's 69 for 6 now. Danger man, Curtly Ambrose, not only with the ball. I've seen him turn matches around with his left-hand batting. Didn't quite come off then, but that's one of the reasons Ambrose is dangerous. He will block, and then give it a real dash. There's no man at long on, but there is one at deep mid-wicket. Ooh, that's got to be close. Oh, yes. I think he's done him with the top spinner. It didn't look quite like the flipper. But it was a misjudgment of length by Kirtley.
Shane Warne's happy association with this ground continues. Umpire Steve Dunn sending Curtly Ambrose on his way, and Shane Warne picking up his second wicket here today.
Mervyn Dillon is the new batsman. Ridley Jacobs is still there. Oh, that's close. That is out. That's good delivery from McGrath. He's got his 4 wickets today with completely different deliveries all the time. That was a change of pace, defeated the forward stroke, and it's 71 for 8.
Well, every bowling change that Steve Waugh makes today seems to be working. He's turned to Glenn McGrath, beats Mervyn Dillon for pace, hits him on the back leg. Absolutely no doubt about that one.
The disappointing card of the West Indies innings. 26 for Jacobs, still there. Rion King is in with him, and this is the way McGrath did it. Very well bowled. As plumb as you're likely to see.
Well, they've got to take the runs, surely. I mean, that was turned down there by Ridley Jacobs. And I know they've got to try and bat their 50 overs, but still got to try and get a total. King's off the mark. It's taken 27 balls. Shane Warne. Now how about that? And yes, he's out. Push through. The flatter one, it may well have been a flipper to follow the tossed up delivery. King's on his way. Classic wrist spin bowling. And West Indies 88 for 9. It is the flipper.
I think Rian King here, though, was deceived more or less with the length of the delivery. He still should have been coming forward. Since he wasn't picking, I think he ought to have been on the front foot, regardless of what's going on. Once you get onto the back foot, with a bowler of the quality of Shane Warne, then the chances are you will be out LBW. It's 88 for 9.
New batsman is Courtney Walsh. Tremendous cheer for Courtney, who's a wonderful fast bowler, not necessarily renowned for his prowess with the bat. What's it to be? There's a slip. 1 ball left in the over. Money's on the flipper. There it is. And well played, Courtney. 88 for 9 after 41 overs. That's the end of Shane Warne. 10 overs, 4 maidens, 3 for 11. Wonderful spell of bowling. Not much pressure on him, to be fair. The damage was really done by Glenn McGrath at the start of the innings. A bowling change at the Warwick Road end. Brendan Julian, who struggled in his first spell. Jacobs a 1-2. It's McGrath who's got a terrific arm. Not this time, though. Fulci's on 2. And here's Julian. That's a huge hit. Well, that's the first boundary for a long, long time. Finally, the crowd here gets something to cheer about. 100 comes up. That's the first boundary since the 16th over. Oh, is that a brilliant catch? Well, they're asking. Shane Warne is certainly asking. Now, was it squeezed out? They're asking for a replay.
Now, that's straight off the bat in the air. Well, it's hit the ground. That's not out. Not out, that one.
Another boo for Shane Warne. And that's 4. Boundaries in successive overs. Walsh cleaned up for 6. And Ridley Jacobs becomes the first batsman to carry his bat in the World Cup. No arguing about that. West Indies bowled out for 110. They haven't completed their full 50 overs. And they really are going to have to produce a superhuman effort with the ball if they're to prevent Australia from going through to the Super Sixes.
Well, poor old Ridley Jacobs. All his partners disappeared before he could reach his half-century. Extras was second top scorer. Chander Paul, the only other batsman into double figures. Well, all the comments about Glenn McGrath underachieving clearly got to him. 5 for 14 off 8.4 overs. Beat that. Mind you, Shane Warne almost did. 3 for 11 off 10. So the Australian target, a very simple one, but they had to get the runs inside 47 overs to go above the West Indies on run rate. But there was a real added twist to all this. Just watch. Well, the extra voice you hear in the commentary box is that of Dwight York, friend of Brian Lara's. It's the first over, and Ambrose is bowling to Gilchrist.
They're away, second ball.
Well, short deliveries. And Gilchrist, we're quite happy with those all day. Gets over the top of that one, keeps it down.
That's more like it.
Well, there should be plenty of movement out there, that's for sure. It's still overcast. The rain has just stopped, but it's been a cool overcast day today with that new white delivery. And that's a beautiful one there, just leaving the left-hander.
Well, the West Indies don't need little slips like that. That's excellent running by the Australians. Oh. Well, we saw in the West Indian innings a couple of players chopping into their stumps, and that was very close. Is Ambrose. That's edged and it's taken. That's the wicket that West Indies really wanted. What a good catch too. Mark Waugh has gone. Wonderful catch by Ridley Jacobs. It went quickly.
A very good delivery here. Curtly Ambrose. Mark Waugh has to play at this. Just left him at the last minute, and that's a superb catch there too as well from Ridley Jacobs. And the West Indies, aren't they happy? And the big fella. That's exactly what they wanted, an early wicket. And there he is. Mark Waugh on his way for 3. The first wicket down for 10.
So Ricky Ponting, the new batsman. 10 for 1 in the third over. That's going to go for 4.
Dearie me, where did that go? Adam Gilchrist is looking around. Didn't know much about that one. This one hits the seam. Just holds its line back through the gap there.
Certainly two more. Going for the third. Yeah, 9 for 2, the West Indies at this same stage. Terrible start, from which they never recovered. That's high, that's hard. It might not quite go for 4. It's a slow outfield here today.
Well, Adam Gilchrist, right after this ball, right from the first delivery. Not a half volley, just a little bit wide this time.
That's 4. Much too short.
Played on. Well, 2 down. 43 on the board. Not many to play with for the West Indies. Australia need 111 in all.
It's the third batsman we've seen today that's played on. Probably an indication that this wicket has some uneven bounce. Adam Gilchrist following Phil Simmons and Shivnarine Chanderpaul and playing onto his stumps. He's gone for 21 and Australia are 43 for 2.
Now Darren Lehmann coming out at 43 for 2. He's due for a good score in these matches. Oh dear. Curtly, you're not doing the right thing by you.
Well, Curtly Ambrose is charging in here. It was a loose-ish shot from Darren Lehmann outside the off stump. A clear chance.
There's 50 on the board for the Australians now. Not everything has come off the middle of the bat, but there have been some very good strokes played as well. It's been good, tense stuff. Well, that's just about worth a shout. Not playing a stroke and the ball darting back from outside off stump. Might have been going past off stump. Must have been, according to Steve Dunn, the umpire.
I think this is a good decision from Steve Dunn. I'm not sure he could be convinced that that ball was going to hit the stumps.
Well, what about that? A square drive which was going for 4 and a wonderful catch.
Well, I don't know whether that was how you expected the wicket to come, Richie, but it was a good call. Darren Lehmann, who had an escape early in his innings off Curtly Ambrose, this time has no such luck. Driving at a wideish ball. And a brilliant catch from Jimmy Adams at backward point. One-handed, full stretch. I think he's quite happy.
And a familiar face to football fans, Dwight York, is out there to provide some sustenance for the West Indies and as a cheerleader as well. Steve Waugh is the new batsman for Australia.
And Left edge and not quite carried to slip, has it? Well, they're throwing it in the air. I think we'll be seeing a replay here. Certainly the Windies are confident that the fourth wicket has been taken here. A little bit of extra bounce. Now, does this carry? I don't think that does. Well, that's the decision given by the umpire as well. You and Brian Lara obviously know each other very well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're going back years of, you know, you're going back since I was 8 years of age, and we got to be very close friends. I've even gone on to be, you know, his godfather for his daughter and everything. So our friendship is not just based in sports, it's a lot deeper than that. And it's just a tremendous mate to have and somebody that I can confide in.
And presumably you can identify sort of pressures on him at the moment. I mean, you know how passionate the supporters in the Caribbean are. He's got some pressure on his shoulders, isn't he?
It's not too bad.
What a brilliant catch! Shivner and Chandapal, what a catch. We've seen Jimmy Adams take a blinder. That is the second fabulous catch of the afternoon. Ponting is gone.
I think I should stay here now.
50 runs still required by Australia. And look at this, to take any catch on the move is difficult. But to take it running in towards the ball as low as this is really special. He had to come in, make good ground, and then to take it just an inch off the ground. It couldn't have been any lower. That was a sensational catch. And here comes Michael Bevan, left-handed, batting at number 6 for Australia. With Australia having to win this match. Now, Mervyn Dillon is replacing Curtly Ambrose, who's finished his spell.
I think this is where Brian Lara is going to have some.
This is going to be tight.
Very tight. No, that's close.
We've been saying how pressure does funny things. And in fact, they did very well to complete that second. Michael Bevan running towards the danger end.
Ryan King here has done very well. He's been feeling not so well, but this is very, very tight. Well done. But the batsman is very, very safe.
Last ball of the 21st over. That's through the gap. Chase here for Adams. I don't think he's going to get it. A neat boundary takes some of the pressure off. That's through as well. 2 boundaries now for Michael Bevan, who's coming here under a fair amount of pressure, but now Australia move on to 73 for 4. Courtney Walsh bowled only 3 overs in his first spell. A little expensive, actually. Oh, well, had there been a second slip, that would have been a chance. Two more to Australia, 87 for 4 after 26 overs.
That's the first loose one after 3 consecutive maidens. Something had to crack, and it was unlikely to be Steve Waugh.
Well, now we see a misfield come in. Curtly Ambrose, simple field there at mid-off. He's let it go through. That's just not what they need at the moment.
Up for Australia, 111 their target.
Just to explain to the viewers at home that Australia would prefer the West Indies to go through rather than New Zealand, as it would mean that they take 2 points through to the Super Sixes. So whilst at the same time as winning this game, they'd quite like to keep the West Indies net run rate above New Zealand's.
Well, you would think that Michael Bevan has just reached the most brilliant century. And wide. No ball called, and the Australians have won here. For a lot of the time, it was a very tight match, and the Australians then settled down to think about net run rates. They've finally won the match 111 for 4 in the 41st over, West Indies having been bowled out for 110.
Well, in a moment, you'll hear Steve Waugh talking about those tactics. They had to reach that target in 47 overs, and they crawled to it eventually in just over 40. Not terribly relevant to read too much into these figures. Curtly Ambrose gave the West Indies a measure of hope, but it had a very short life expectancy indeed. So 6 wickets was the margin. The Australian World Cup dream remains, especially with McGrath and Warne in such good form. Here's the table coming up, and the West Indies' ambitions haven't quite been extinguished yet, because, well, we'll explain those in just a moment.
Can you explain to people what was going on at the end there?
We're looking for a bit of a net, myself and Bevo. We're short of practice. Now, obviously, we had to try and make the run rate as hard as possible for New Zealand to go through. We want 2 points into the next round, which I think are going to be vital. So, it was imperative for us to try and make New Zealand's job as hard as possible. And to do that, we had to, score, I guess, slowly in the last 10 overs.
So that was all it was, it's simply down to the run rate.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing by the rules. We don't make the rules. We got to play as we see fit, and we want 2 points going to the next round. And you've got to do everything possible as a professional player to make sure that you make the most of your opportunities. And for us, that was batting 40 overs.
Well, we're working out that apparently if New Zealand score around about 230 and then bowl Scotland out for 110, that would get New Zealand through. So you'll be watching very carefully tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an important game for us to watch. I like and wishes that Scotland do well, but I think at the end of the day we are disappointing today, and if we're going to do well in this tournament, if we get through, we've got to do a much better performance than today.
OK, let's talk these figures. I've got to read this. What happens tomorrow? If New Zealand bat first against Scotland and they score 200, the winning margin has to be 121 runs, and then they'll go through to the Super Sixes. If they score 250, they have to win by 118 runs, and if they score 300, they need to win by 114 runs, and there's a sort of a consequent sliding scale. If Scotland bat first and score 100, New Zealand have to pass that total by the 21st over. If they score 150, they have to win by the 23rd over, and they must overtake a score of 200 by the 25th over. And if it rains, then we'll worry about that when it comes to it. But anyway, basically, it's all down to the facts and figures tomorrow, and obviously we've got highlights for you here tomorrow night on BBC One. But